Hi everyone, Ginny here, your research and instruction librarian, and I'm sharing a few readings and a couple of videos with you to help us set up for our discussion on Tuesday about tertiary sources. The first thing that I am sharing with you is some material that is pretty short from the university libraries at the University of Maryland. And it gives a nice overview of primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. And in particular, what I like about it is that it talks about the context of those. And there's some reflection questions in your PWA, preparatory writing assignment, that is helping you think about how you've used some of those kinds of sources in the past. Maybe you haven't thought about it that way, but I'm asking you to think about it that way for our discussion over the course of this semester. And a lot of our talking together is going to be really about intentionality. You've made a lot of these decisions before in your past history here at Macalester, and I'm sure in your personal and previous lives as high school students. And you'll continue making snap decisions all the time about kinds of resources that you lend credibility to. And so we're going to be talking a lot about context, and this helps set that up. I'm also asking you to take a look at a working paper that is examining language and bias as found in entries in Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica. There's a lot of information out there on how reliable or not Wikipedia is in various subject areas and various disciplines. And they tend to compare Encyclopedia Britannica to Wikipedia. I'm not sure if that's good news or bad news for either one of those resources, but it's interesting to note that those seem to be the 2 points of comparison. And I raise this article to your attention for a couple of reasons. One, because it addresses, to some degree, the background of how both of those venerable encyclopedias are produced. And I think that's something important to think about. What's the production of knowledge? What does that look like for different kinds of resources and different kinds of scholarship in our culture, particularly Western culture? But I also think it raises an interesting point about the validity of any kind of source that we choose and how we think about the language that it's using, the biases that it may be bringing, and how do we react to that when we're working with those materials? Do we think about it? Do we not think about it? Do we address it in some way? Do we look for ways to compensate for that? For example, do we use critical theory as a lens to look at? Maybe we look at race theory or feminist theory, and there are definitely ways to read religious studies through those various lenses as well. And I think the more we look at different kinds of resources with those lenses on, that can only help us at least be critical consumers of it and go into using those resources with our eyes wide open. Another item I have for you is an article that I happened to just sort of serendipitously come across in a magazine that I read for my own personal interests. So a little sharing of a personal thing for me with you, but it's on faith and fitness, and I want to share it first of all, as an example of how religion and religious studies broadly may get talked about in the popular press. This is a big topic right now. There's a lot of interest in mindfulness and business and other places around, even at Macalester, where there's a lot of talk about being intentional in our practice. And I'm going to use some of that language too. I'm not going to lie. So I want you to think about that and think about this article too as one, it's a secondary source of a kind because it's a magazine article, a journal article. It's written for a popular group of people, the general public. And it is also, though, a tertiary source in the way that we're going to be thinking about them because it's referring us to a number of both experts and other studies, other information that we could use for follow-up if we wanted to pursue this as a topic. So I want you to be thinking about it in that kind of a context and reflecting on it in that regard. The third piece that I'm asking you to read is an article that is written primarily for librarians and information studies, information science folks, but it's about the value of libraries and librarians in this age of Google. And isn't everything on the internet? Can I find it for free? I'm sure that in your academic careers here at Macalester, you've encountered situations where no, actually you can't find everything for free, and no, not exactly everything that you need is on the internet either. But this reinforces the idea that, or at least what I want you to think about in regard to this, is how the information is structured that you're ultimately going to be looking for. And you don't have to be an expert in that. That's what we're for. Librarians are for. That's where we live. That's our wheelhouse, right? So we're not telling you have to be an expert in that, but I am saying that you want to think about that, because that's going to help you be able to navigate the research landscape and start to think about the kinds of physical materials and virtual materials that you're going to be needing to consider as you start to work towards learning enough about your topics so that you can actually write and ask good questions about them, because that's going to be key for you over the course of the semester, is figuring out enough about your topics to be able to write about them in any. I've also shared a couple of WriteWell videos with you. In case you're not familiar with those are WriteWell. The videos are produced by the Center for Scholarship and Teaching here at Macalester College, and a lot of them are used in writing workshops and in introducing topics and papers and giving feedback to students. And so maybe you've encountered these before, maybe you haven't. But what I want you to look at are these, because first of all, Britt Abel's piece talks a lot about genre and knowing your audience for the kinds of things that you're writing, because that's an important consideration in terms of framing the kinds of questions that you're going to be asking in your research. And the other one is one that I did a while ago when I was still using my married name. I'm back to my family name now. But that's one that I want you to think about too, because subject encyclopedias are something that we're going to be talking about on Tuesday. And so if you haven't already engaged with them before, I'm definitely going to be looking for you to start to engage with them for this class. So those are the materials that I want you to take a look at for Tuesday and use that for your framing your PWA response, and I look forward to seeing you then. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.